advisor. You can argue about that, but where we can offer some input and feedback to some of the things that the board is really looking toward. And so they're eager to hear from us. Christine Zerinsky is here today, and she's the current president of ALDI. Dave First is the president-elect, and he will be joining us in a few minutes. And then Denny and Bonnie Meyer have agreed to kind of co-host this with me. So I'm just getting us started, and then a quick agenda. I promised it's going to be fairly casual, but also intentional. And so we're going to really start by just sharing some time for some introductions, and Denny is going to lead that. And then after that, we're going to let Christine give us an update about ALDI. And then Bonnie's going to lead some discussion. And then we'll wrap things up. For those of you who have to leave at 4 o'clock Central, you go right ahead. We'll officially wrap up by then, but some of us can unofficially lollygag if we want to. So with that, welcome. And I'm just going to hand the baton to Denny.
Thank you, Brenda. It's great to be together. As you said, I'm sorry it's not in person as we have for 40 years, if you would, for some of us, but it's great to see each of you. I think we could just maybe take a minute and express anything that you'd like to say in a few seconds, just as we go around. So Bonnie and I are enjoying having had our second vaccine shot a few weeks ago. And so we've done some traveling. So we're sort of celebrating by, we're in Palm Springs right now for a few days. So that's our story. My story, we're still working and enjoying grandchildren. So Bonnie?
So I don't think we're all in the same order. So maybe we'll just sort of point to person by person, but maybe if you want to briefly share a high and low of the past year. I think we all kind of know what the lows are. But didn't fly, for like 11 months. I think 7 cross-country road trips during the time. And actually, it was sort of a really nice thing that we were able to visit national parks and do things we never would do otherwise. So we did have some silver linings during this past year. And I will pass the baton to Cheryl. Cheryl?
Hi, everybody. It's so good to see all of your faces. As I said to Brenda, since I retired 5 years ago, we sold our house, our big old house in North Oaks, moved downtown by the Guthrie, enjoyed it for about a year and a half before everything shut down downtown. But we're enjoying that. I'm enjoying being involved with community gardens, still involved with Tanzania. A low has been the way the virus is unfolding in Tanzania, in denial, the only country in the world, I think, that has said the virus doesn't exist. And so people are dying by the thousands and thousands untreated. But in spite of that, we're still hopeful. And I guess the high point has been my husband and I have 2 little grandsons, a 4-month-old and a 3-year-old, and we fortunately are in the bubble with them, and that has made all the difference in a very difficult year.
Jim?
Yes. I can't, can you see me? I can't see more than about 4 people or 5.
You can see.
There. Anyway, we're still living in New Brighton. We've been in this house for about 20 years now. It's the longest we've ever lived in one place. The longest up until that time was 4 years, I think. No, 7 years. Anyway, not still active with our church, which is interesting these days when we have services all by this method, and a small number in person, but that's very limited. But I'm not actively involved in anything now with ALDI, so it's probably going to be more of a listening and looking session for me than it is contributing, unless something piques my interest and I choose to respond. But it's great to see you all.
Hans? Hope you're on mute.
Yes, let me unmute. Let's see, I retired 3 years ago. My wife keeps on asking when I'm really going to retire, because I am president of our congregation, which keeps me busy. I am on the board of the Belize Mission Society, and I am the executive director part-time of ALOA, which is Adult Lutherans Organized for Action. I kind of got backed into that job, but I'm having fun at it. I'm learning all about old people, even though I don't consider myself old. But the more I read, the more I say, I got to pay attention to some of this stuff. So I've had a couple of health issues, but so far everything's doing okay. Everything has come up negative, so I'm doing okay.
Ward?
Well, I retired in 2010 and we moved to Florida, and have not been involved in fundraising since then, other than through my church stewardship drives, of course. We recently moved up to South Carolina. We became what's affectionately known as halfbacks. Moved halfway back from Florida to Ohio, about halfway to South Carolina. Not going to miss 70 days of 90 degrees or more. It's about half that here. And there's actually 4 seasons again. It was really great to see fall. It was beautiful. And now I'm really looking forward to spring because I'm not used to 20 and 30 degree mornings, which I'm sure sounds great to some of you. So that's me.
Christine?
Good afternoon, everyone. And again, thank you so much for your time. It's so wonderful to see all of you and see all of your faces. And I am in Chicago and I have been really humbled and blown away. I'm the head of fundraising at Lincoln Park Zoo. Some of you who are connected to me on LinkedIn probably got to notice that it's my 3rd anniversary. That actually is my 3rd of becoming the SVP. I've been there almost 27 years. So it's been amazing to see the outpouring of support from our donors. So that's been a real highlight. And unfortunately, the low I would say is that we lost my mom's sister and her husband to the virus in the fall. And that was really hard. So, but we did get to celebrate their lives. She was the church secretary and we did an outdoor memorial and it was beautiful. So I feel very blessed to have had that experience. But it's just, and Aldi has been something that has been really a challenging year as it has been for everyone. But I feel like we just had a board meeting yesterday and we're moving in the right direction. So really looking forward to sharing with you what some of our priorities are and to hearing your feedback. Thank you.
Kate?
I live in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, but today I'm visiting my daughter without grandchildren in Asheville, North Carolina. And it was beautiful, 65 degrees. I haven't done any stewardship type things for maybe the last 2 years, but have managed to keep my hand in here and there. And of course, in my local congregation, about 2 years ago, I got the feeling that maybe God wasn't quite through with me yet. And so I signed up for a lay preaching course that our synod has been offering and passed the course and actually preached at my home church this past Sunday. So I'm, trying to stay in there, but
Good for you.
good health. I'm very, very content. Thank you.
Mark?
Well, good afternoon, everyone. I'm glad that we're able to all get together. I talk about highs and lows. I realized that this week I celebrated the 1-year anniversary of the last donor trip that the president and I took. The high point was that Brian Friedrich became president of Concordia St. Paul, and having served together on the board a couple of years ago, it was nice to reconnect professionally with Brian before we both ride off into the sunset at some point. And it's been a great. We've had a great year. It's been a fun time working together on that. We have since August. We have been going into the office every day. Although today I'm not there. I just put the artificial office background behind me. But it's been nice. The university's been face to face all year, and low incidence of COVID and so forth. But you notice all the protocols that you set up. I didn't realize I'd ever have a bucket of cleaning supplies on the edge of my desk to spritz down the conference room table after every meeting. So, and I now own about 20 masks so that every pocket of every jacket or whatever can have a mask in it. So, but it's been an interesting year. So great to see everyone.
Dick Engdahl.
There we go. Okay, greetings from Florida. I'm still not.
Yeah, you were on. But now you're still muted. There you go.
There we go. Okay. Well, we're doing our snowbird bit in Florida. We received our COVID shot yesterday, our first one. Florida has a thing about legal residency requirements, and we are not legal citizens of Florida, so we had to jump through a number of hoops, which has been a very interesting process. We finally got our first one yesterday, so we'll see about the second one in 3 weeks. I'm retired, of course, and live in a seniors community in Minnesota. As far as development or anything like that, stewardship activities, I'm chair of a social justice committee in a large Presbyterian homes facility, which is their foundation says we can't do any fundraising, we can't contact any people. So it's really been fun kind of tweaking management, and the foundation guy, his last name is actually Preuss. So that's been interesting, but kind of fun tweaking management and figuring out how to raise money when they say we can't raise money on campus. And we've had campaigns for a large food shelf and also for United Way. So we're plugging away. So good to see everybody. And I don't know about you, look at some people and I think, gee, maybe you've aged a few years, but I don't think I have. So anyway.
Cindy.
So good to see all of these faces here. It's making me want to like pick up the phone and actually call people and chat and catch up and do all that stuff. So some of you may not know this, many of you, that I live in Wisconsin now and have for about the last 5 years. My husband is the pastor at St. John's Brookfield, and we live out about 25 miles west of Milwaukee, out in Lake Country, and loving it out here. You know, I went from a postage size yard or lot in Oak Park, Illinois, a very urban setting, to 2.5 acres surrounded by conservancy. So life is just very different, and we're really enjoying it. And for those of you who are my Chicago folks, you could see maybe back in the background there, we hold on to those Chicago connections and roots very strong. We love the land in Wisconsin, but there's a lot we miss about Illinois. So I'm actually have done a full circle thing. I am now a regional gift planner for the ELCA Foundation. And so I wish I would have done this actually before I worked in the foundation office. I think I would have been a better colleague for the deployed staff, but I'm loving this work. I just love being out with the folks. And it's new work for me since I took it on, because I never was a planned giving officer, and I truly am now, and I'm continuing to learn in that whole area and loving that. And I also work with lots of congregations here in their endowment, investment, and growth. So that's great fun too. I think a high for us is our congregation is opening up on May 7th, and that's been really stressful to have my husband be the pastor and to close the building. It's been a tough year that way because we have had many who want to be there. And so we're going to start small and controlled, but we are going back to Sunday morning open services, and we feel good about that. Yeah, we're ready. So,
Doug.
Hi, everybody. I'm Doug Page out at Pacific Lutheran University, and I look at this Zoom screen and I wonder why I'm here, because I'm with all of my heroes, and it's wonderful to see you. I guess there is a God, and he listens to prayer. As I said, I'm at PLU, and a high would be probably, the generosity of our friends and donors who continue to support us in this difficult time for all of us. We're all in the same storm, different boats, but all in the same storm. And our students are benefiting generously from all of those fabulous support. And then a low is that I've lost a lot of really important donor friends, and after being at a place, and I'm looking at a lot of you who worked at places for a long time, and I've been at PLU, I'm in my 23rd year, I think. And, it's just tough when you lose someone and you aren't able during this COVID time to go be a part of their memorial and to be part of that end of life that's so important to all of us. So I think that's a low, and I don't want to end on a low point. So let me think of something high to say. I know. The fact that Jane Lottis is on this call is definitely a high point. Don't you all agree? Yeah, there we are.
Anne.
Hello, everyone. I hope I didn't make anybody dizzy when I had to move from the attic down to the dining room. The internet in rural Northeast Iowa just isn't very strong. So when, especially in the late afternoon, on a Zoom call, I have to get really close to the router. So, not everything has been negative in this season of COVID. Some of you know that in August of 2016, I needed to make the change to leave Luther College, where my husband remains as a professor of music and where our home is here in Decorah, Iowa. And I chose to leave there and return to my alma mater, Gustavus Adolphus College. And I did that with lots of anxiety and excitement kind of together. And when I'm at Gustavus, I am at the home Sponberg Farm in Mankato with my beautiful brother, Michael, who appreciates the company and my hot dishes. But it also means that my commute was usually getting up at 4 a.m. on a Monday morning and hopping in the car and driving 3 hours and making it to St. Peter, Minnesota for an 8 o'clock staff meeting. So my commute changed dramatically with COVID, and got to spend a lot of time in the garden last spring, and most importantly, a lot of time with my beloved husband here in the house. And I like to say that I'm now getting 4 months to the gallon with all of my driving and no visits and such. But I manage my team. I have 13 direct reports, which is about 9 too many. But I love every one of them. And I have found that there's an ease of being able to do it because I can just move from Zoom to Zoom. So it hasn't been all bad. And I found it as a real blessing. So highs and lows together. I left Luther in my 11th year. I'm a boomerang. They call us at Gustavus, those of us that were there, that left, that came back. So I'm now in my 15th year at Gustavus. That's just a little crazy. Anyway.
Jane.
Okay, so I think I caught on in those last couple of people. I'm sorry I'm late. I had a meeting that ran over. Highs, I'm still at Lutheran High School, same job I've had forever. I'm one of those people, very loyal, doesn't leave, kind of like Doug. Hi, Doug. But I think highs for us, we went through some rocky transition, and our new head of school has been in place for 3 years. During COVID, when people were kind of taking a step back, we kept forging ahead. We had spent almost a year on a new strategic plan with a new leader in place, and just finished a master planning process. And we have a master plan that will roll out. I will probably be deceased before it's all done, but really exciting and transformational. And I'm excited to get going again on a campaign. We have not really had, other than Anya Fund, we have not had a campaign of note since Dave Hahn left. So I'm excited about that. So that's a high. A low, my parents are not well. None of us live at home. There's way too much to talk about that, but that's been a struggle for me. My parents are in their 90s, and one of us is with them all the time now, and that means that they live in Minnesota, and my sister's in Ohio, and my brother's in Nebraska, and I'm in New York. So a little hard, but we'll figure it out. That's enough for now.
Brenda? I don't think you got it, but would everyone put yourself on mute if you're not? Thank you.
Sure, I'll make a quick introduction. You know, my name is Brenda Moore, and I am currently living and have for the last 8 years in Carver, Minnesota, which is a southwestern suburb of Minneapolis, St. Paul. And believe it or not, my girls have grown up overnight. I'm super excited about the fact that my 17-year-old will be having an official college tour at Gustavus Adolphus College on March 5th, the place where she learned to walk quite a few years ago now. So that's humbling. Highs are that fortunately teenage girls, at least mine too, have been really resilient during this time, and so is hubby. Family time has been a huge gift, and the low really has been, you know, being away from mom and the rest of the family and everybody who we haven't been able to see for many, many months now. But there too, Zoom has been a real gift. Every Saturday morning at 10 o'clock, the Peterson powwow, and maybe we're closer than we've ever been. So it really is great to see you. I think we can let Dave introduce himself, and then Dave, when you're done, have we introduced everybody, Denny and Bonnie? Well, Lori hasn't had the chance. Let's go to Lori, then Dave, maybe, and then back to Christine, who can take, oh, John hasn't either. Lori, sorry, I'll be quiet.
No, I'll be quick. So my name is Lori Brill. It's been such a pleasure to serve Aldi. I've been now with the organization for 2 years, which is hard to believe. I'll share a different high today than I did on Tuesday. While Zoom has been consuming for all of us, for me, it's given me a chance to meet members face to face, get to know them, see them. When you go to a conference and you're there 3 days, it's a whirlwind. And so this has really enabled me to connect in a unique way, and I'm very grateful for that. Like Jane, my parents are in their 90s, and it is difficult, and they're advanced stage dementia, and I am managing their care. I'm currently in Asheville, so actually, Kay, we're in the same city. How about that? And go back and forth to Hickory to care for them as needed. But again, a pleasure to be here, and thanks so much for taking time to join us.
John?
Yeah, I've now been with Haldi for about 13
Wow.
years. So it's been a while now, and over this past year, I might say that's something that that was low was just that my son passed out him on so much time with him, his friends, like, and everything, like, as he's growing up, like, so that's too bad. But something that's been good is that we've had a lot of snow, so we've been able to go snowboarding and snowshoeing, and skiing, like, and all that, like, so that's been really fun. So
Very good, very good. Dave, I think you're the last one.
I'm the party crasher with the Virgils here. So it's good to be with you all. Dave first. I serve as the Associate Vice President for External Relations at Course International, which Lutheran World Relief is now part of. I shared this the other day, and I'll share it anytime somebody asks. The amazing generosity I've seen in the last year is so extraordinary. It moves me every single day and motivates me every single day. Gives me a lot of hope. And I suspect my lows have been same. I have parents who are getting up there in years and being able to be there for them in the way that I would like isn't always possible. I have a daughter who's a freshman at PLU. Doug Page is watching out for her, I think. And I thought I would be going to a Christmas concert and doing all the fun things there, so it's those things that I'm missing the most. So,
very good. Yeah. Well, this has been great. To stay on schedule, I think we need to move to Christine, but thanks for sharing. It's great.
Yes, very lovely to hear your story. So thank you for sharing that. And I just want to share with you what we've been talking about at the board level. Obviously, we postponed Ignite for 2021 and very disappointed to do that. But obviously, given everything that's transpired in the last year, that was the right decision, I believe. And it gave us a chance to kind of take a step back. We had started strategic planning in 2019, and now we were able to really dig in. And the board has been working very, very hard. As I said, we had a meeting yesterday. We've been having meetings every month for the executive committee as well as the full board. We've hosted town halls and other sessions to share information with our membership, which has been really wonderful to see the response to those opportunities. And so just to give you a sense about the 5 top areas of focus that we have, we really need to create a membership model that allows us to recruit and retain Christian fundraisers and it allows us to best serve our communities. And a part of that is making sure that we attain a financially viable model. So we're going to be looking at membership and changing how we frame that and we're proposing a tiered membership system. So stay tuned for that. We look forward to sharing that as we refine it moving forward. But we really need to have financial stability. We had a model where Ignite or the conference would fund the rest of all these operations. And when we have years where we have reduced attendance and our expenses are higher and membership, as it is at all associations, is down across the board, that's not financially viable. So we're really looking into our finances, and we have some better news on that front. Again, we'll be sharing in the coming months. We also have an opportunity to look at how we structure our chapters. We don't have to be limited by geography now that we have tools like Zoom. And we also believe that we can build out our affinity groups and really have some deep engagement across either areas of focus, whether you're a major gift officer or planned gift officer, whether you are in higher ed, whether you serve a congregation. So I think we have some really exciting ideas on that front to really build out that to, again, build affinities among our members. We also have to really look at defining our brand. We have a strong Lutheran tradition, but we also serve many other Christians, and we want to provide that excellence in Christian philanthropy and really look at how we can best serve people who are Lutheran, but also broaden that network. Again, the realities of of Lutheran numbers across the country. I think that it's really important for us to do that while not losing sight of our 41-year tradition and all that that has meant to us over the years. And then we want to make sure we provide the best possible educational experience for all of our members and the people who come not only to our conferences, but also other virtual and other in-person opportunities. That we have the highest quality presenters are able to make people feel that it's worth their investment and they should attend the conference every year and should engage with us in other ways. So we look forward to sharing a little bit with you on that front today, but I don't know if anyone has any initial questions or thoughts, but just wanted to let you know what the board has been working on for the past little over a year. Great, thank you.
So with that, I think the board has asked us to brainstorm, kind of recognizing that in this group we have development professionals that value continuing education, not just for yourself, but for other people that you've mentored. And some of you have led organizations through change before. So as you think about Aldi's future, there's really going to be 3 questions that we'd like to brainstorm, but let's take them one at a time. I think perhaps most importantly, what bold ideas do you have for how Aldi can invite others into the life and membership of our organization? How can we, as Christine said, recruit and retain, but how can we be welcoming and invite and retain more members to Aldi? It's a big question. I remember my first conference. I'm sure everyone does. And I remember how warmly I was welcomed. I mean, so part of it is just the spirit of welcome. I think we're approaching this conversation right now in this year that has been especially challenging without a conference. And thus the question's a pretty big question, but all ideas are welcome.
I have a few thoughts, Bonnie. First of all, I really enjoyed listening to the town hall recording. I thought it was excellent with BWF presenting the results of the survey. And it occurred to me that a lot of these issues are issues that we talked about when I was on the board a long time ago. The difference, I think, is that the sector is bigger, different, more competitive for the time and limited resources of development professionals. So where do we find our niche? And that is then our brand. And I think, to me, it's always been, and from listening to the town hall survey results, it's the same, and that is the networking, mentoring, and faith-based aspects of Aldi. So since we have that challenge with a not growing Lutheran community and not growing Lutheran organization, charitable organization atmosphere, what can we do to stabilize it? And I feel like if we can emphasize these 3 things to Christian development professionals, and as a Lutheran, I'm biting my tongue as I say it, but I do think now is the time to ask that hard question. Do we make a greater effort to be a Christian development organization as opposed to a Lutheran development organization that welcomes others? The one time I bristled during the town hall was when Carol was saying that we want to be more welcoming to the non-Lutherans. And I felt that's not welcoming when you say, I mean, to me, it's not just being welcoming, it's getting rid of the dividing lines. So it's, oh, yes, you can join us, come on in to our Lutheran arena, but rather there aren't these dividing lines anymore. We're Christian and we're in this profession together. And that to me were few impressions that I had as I listened to that presentation.
I echo where Cheryl is, and some of us were all on the board back then when we had to hammer out new membership strategies and how we were going to move forward through a strategic plan under Michelle Jansen when she was board president. And I we talk a lot about community in all of our colleges and in our association. We talk about community, but community really means common unity. And I don't think we know what that means anymore when we have a Lutheran overlay of that. And that membership in all of our Lutheran denominations are on the decline. And it's no longer a requirement to be Lutheran in many of our Lutheran organization leadership positions any longer. But it is a requirement that we understand and that we have a mature understanding of the Christian faith. And so how could we reshape that so that we might move towards something that's a bit more of a common unity? I chuckle a little bit in that someone said to me when you do these things in upper management, and I exposed myself to do a 360 evaluation. And one of my direct reports said, it's tough to get hired by Ann Sponberg Peterson because she's really partial to those Aldi folks. To which I took that as a badge of honor and knew exactly who had written it. And we went to coffee and we had a little chat. So there is a common unity in that. I think our mentoring is very strong. Our tethering to each other is very strong. But we could be even stronger about that and bolder and name that as a common unity.
By the way, welcome Dave Coker. Glad you're with us. And maybe, Dave, I don't know if you heard what we're doing. We're brainstorming right now. A question about how we as an organization can be even more welcoming. And well, that's not the right way to phrase it. Let me read my question. What bold ideas do you have for how Aldi can invite others into the life and membership of the organization? So that's our question. Mark, did I see your hand go up a minute ago? I thought I did. No.
Next question.
Anybody else have? I guess I could try to watch the chat box too, if anybody wants. Okay, Ward, and then Dick. But Ward, go.
My wife recorded my acceptance speech when I received the award, and I listened to it again the other day, and I made a comment about this very issue, and my award was 2012, I think, so more than 10 years ago. So we keep talking about this issue of how to invite other people, and we haven't solved it. And I know you again are asking, how do we solve it? We need to do something we haven't done before. I'm not sure what that is. One thought that hit me today was, what does Aldi mean to someone who's not familiar with it? I think it means a grocery store. And I think it's worth having a conversation about a name change that reflects who we want to be.
Thanks. Dick?
Question for Denny, if I could. I believe Denny's involved in this relatively new large umbrella group. And what, they're, sounds like they're well funded, but what can you bring to the table, Denny, from somebody that's in a kind of a larger arena, so to speak, that would help with some of these issues? And how is that new group going? I forget the name of it, but anyway, just a question for Denny.
Yeah, the organization is the Nonprofit Alliance, and its goal is to be an umbrella group for a number of different associations. And it's been very successful. We're in our, we've just celebrated our second anniversary, and we have full-time lobbyists. We have several full-time staff, but representing the nonprofit sector for legal issues, postal issues, advocacy relative to legislation, but also education. The organization was planning to have a national conference this past year, and of course, due to COVID, did not. But there have been some conversations with Lori and Dave First about possible avenues of cooperation, and I don't think I can really say any more, but about that at the moment. I think those conversations are very early, but I think TNPA, as it's called, is very open to supporting Aldi. Just a somewhat analogous situation is that the National Catholic Development Conference, which had been in existence for 50 years, went bankrupt a year and a half ago. And as a result of that bankruptcy, TNPA created the Catholic Development Conference, and members of that former organization now are in a council, if you will, of nonprofit alliance. So hope that answers your question, Dick. It also has various models of membership, tiered different membership, corporate, individual, that sort of thing. Sort of along the lines that Christine was talking about earlier, different tiers.
Hans.
Two things. Through all these many years, I finally learned that if you want somebody to do something for you or to join what you're involved with, you have to ask them. So if we somehow could figure out a program where every Aldi member is asked to find a potential member, maybe you could call it 1 for 1, I don't know. That's one thing. The other thing is I did chair this task force on looking at renaming, where we came up with the concept and the word ignite. And my hope was that by this time, the ignite would be in 64-point type and formerly known as Association of Lutheran Development Executives would be a 9-point type. So maybe we've got a ways to go in kind of saying, we're not really Aldi anymore. We were Aldi, but what we are today is Ignite. And we got a whole tagline, I believe, still that goes with that. So those are my 2 comments.
Jane, I think you were, no? Okay, sorry.
That's okay, though. I will say something. Having been on committees and on the board and in other board work I've done, I guess to me, if we want to really be that community that is not just Lutheran, but is Christian, it probably goes to a little bit of what we have as our board makeup as well. And I don't know what the constitution of the Aldi board is made up of. I can't remember in my time there. Did you have to be a member? Did you have to be Lutheran? But in broadening the scope of who's on the board and broadening the scope of who we get as presenters might be a first step to broadening the people that then come to the conference and market for us and bring people to us.
Right.
I think too, as I've heard these things, I think there's just been a fundamental change in the church too in recent years that is really something we're experiencing. And, there was the day when leaders in our Lutheran institutions kind of said, we're going to the Aldi conference and we will be members of Aldi. And that, I think, was really helpful to many of us coming up, because it wasn't even a matter really of personal choice of what you wanted to do. That's what the organizations did. And but that's not the case anymore. And we're seeing it in other places too. It's not just Aldi, but leaders of our organizations that aren't Lutheran, so they just don't have the same ownership or internalize what being part of the church means. There's bigger reasons for joining and being a part of things. I think I don't think that's something we have anymore, at least to the level we did in Aldi's heyday, I guess, if you will. But so I think we have to think about that. That's not there. It doesn't mean that we can't, reach people and invite people and offer the great things that we can as an organization. But I think that communication piece has to be different, because I know then leading staffs where people weren't Lutheran, they really would come and say, that's not where I want to go. I want to go to this conference or whatever. And so how do we help people understand that there could be an experience here? Because the days I think of the executive going, we're all going to Aldi, and that's it. Those days are gone, I think, except maybe Anne, you might do that still. But I don't see that in other places. And so how do we kind of, recognize that and then have a different approach, I think.
Well, for the sake of time, we probably need to go to another question, but I guess I want to just second what you were saying, Cindy. And we're seeing organizations that used to send several people to the conference and now say to their staff, you can go to one conference this year, and they're picking a different conference. It's not, so something to think about. But I want to move on just to ask you this question. If we had a strong tagline for Aldi, and by the way, maybe it's a new name of the organization, okay? So, but if we had a strong tagline for what we are, what would it be? And by the way, we've gone through some name changes with organizations, and having a strong tagline that carried through from the old to the new as a bridge has been very helpful. So I think this is an important question. It may be deserving of more time than we have today, but we would like input on this. I think it's a really important thing that we need, especially if we're contemplating a name change. We need a tagline that says, this is who we are. I'm not sure if it off the top of your head, but Cheryl?
I'm just wondering if Hans could share, or maybe someone else knows, what the tagline was that the task force developed in 2015 when the name was, or when it was to become Less Lutheran. And is that when Ignite with the tagline was adopted?
Yeah, and I'm not sure what the full tagline is anymore. Lori or John might know, or somebody else. When you retire, the kinds of things you were involved with aren't at the top of your mind every day. Plus, you're involved in some other things. So I'd have to dig out some stuff. But something about developing stewardship or whatnot, I think was at least a part of the Ignite tagline. I think it's a little bit too long. It's something that should be shorter. And I think we did finally start using a shorter version of it, but I'll defer to others.
Yeah. Quickly, it's Spark. So if you go to the home page of our website, you see the acronym ALDI, and then you see Spark Generosity for Mission. What you're referencing, I think, Hans, that is a little bit longer, is the inspiring, educating, and mentoring the Christian fundraising community to spark generosity for mission.
Right. A shorter version is better, but that doesn't say we can't change it to something else. It doesn't mean that we're tied to Ignite either.
Other thoughts on this?
I'll say a little bit more. Actually, I'll be leaving this meeting shortly for a board meeting where we're discussing exactly the same thing with a name change. And we've gone through a process of focus groups and consultants. And the one thing we've concluded is acronyms need to go away, that you need to establish your brand. And I think you experts on this screen agree. You need to establish immediate identity. Aldi doesn't do that if if we're moving away from Lutheran, then what's the point of having Aldi there at all, except it's nostalgic for a lot of us. So then we get a strong name, the legal name, with a bunch of taglines that we use for different purposes, because the taglines can be flexible and added to fit situations. Then we brand that, we get a majority or at least a significant number of non-Lutherans on the board. And we really roll it out in an intentional way that says, we're Christian and we're about giving you a comfortable place to learn, to share, to advance in your profession and to worship. And I think we just put the past behind us now with Aldi, and if we want to have something embedded on the website about our roots, our Lutheran roots, I think that's great. But I don't think we can go forward as long as we just try to put taglines on Aldi. I think that has to go away. We need something stronger.
Yes, Kay.
It seems that we really need to look in the direction of a name change before we can significantly do tags that just make it easier. And I'm wondering, is that such a long, painful process?
Often it is.
Well, then we better get started on it.
It's a book title, The Name is the Name of the Game, or something like that. I mean, the name is so critical. I would think something like that involves faith and something that involves philanthropy. So I don't know, faith and philanthropy, or
Well, just remember that on this whole rebranding thing, we spent 1.5 years on that.
yeah.
Mhm.
And I would say I would just add that the people that are attached to the name, like so many of us are from our years, and you know, I met Aldi through most of you and learned from all of you, and that the name change, while internally I would go, oh man, I'm not going to stop coming because you've changed the name, and you're going to gain new people to come because you have changed the name. And so I think that name change would be the best of both worlds for what we want to do moving forward.
We are running really tight on time. Should we address the third question quickly, or do you want to wrap up for people that need to move on?
Could I ask just a quick thing here? Do we know for sure who it is that we want to be and who we can claim to be? And do we know who else out there perhaps is doing the very same thing or something very close to it?
Yeah, that's a great question. There are a couple of organizations that run parallel, I would say, in some respects. The Catholic Development Council, and then the Christian Alliance. And what's happened over the years is the networking in the Lutheran, the Catholic, the Christian Alliance have sort of, there is overlap. I mean, some people go to, Denny and I have gone to all of these conferences, and we see some of the same people in all three. I think, as Denny was talking about the Nonprofit Alliance, and the Catholic Development Council is now under that umbrella. You know, I'm not sure that there will ever be a merger, you know, but I don't know what could happen. I personally see some opportunities for doing things that would make sense, because we can go to each of these conferences and hear the same speakers, keynoters in every one of them, and that seems a little illogical. But if there was some way of preserving the, you know, the worship style that you feel most comfortable with, you know, most of us probably don't feel that comfortable worshiping with the Mass, you know, that kind of thing. I don't know, there would be a lot to work out, but there are some parallel organizations. So.
I'd like to hear the third question, just so we can mull it over, even if we run out of time.
Let me throw it out here. And okay, so what compelling or memorable or creative experiences have you had in the digital space? Educational experiences. Compelling, memorable, creative, educational experiences in the digital space. Because I think digital will continue to be a part of the future. Hopefully we'll be in person again at conferences, but we've learned what we can do digitally, but how do we do it well? And that was the big question. Brenda, should I pass this back to you for time?
Sure, I will. Let's do this. Let's just officially wrap up and bless this for those who have to be on their way. I'm thinking of Cheryl and her meeting and others, and I'm just going to kind of wrap up with 3 points. But then for those who can stay, let's come back to the question. I will just wrap up for those who have to go by saying a huge thank you. It really is a joy to have you here. There are kind of 3 invitations that I want to extend. One goes back to what was said earlier so well by Hans, and that is the extent that any of us can continue to leverage our networks in order to invite people to become members of ALDI or whatever we're going to call it moving forward. I think our influence and our personal invitation is still the way that we're going to be able to grow this profession that we all share. That's invitation number 1. Invitation number 2 is to stay engaged or to get re-engaged. If after this conversation you think of some responses that you want to share, it's my impression that Christine and Dave and Lori are so eager to hear from you. And so please stay engaged. Invitation number 3 came out of my recognition the other day that my budget this year was quite a bit different than it's been in the past because I didn't spend $2,000 this year going to an ALDI conference. And it's the best $2,000 I spend every year. And so I'm thinking of ways that I can turn that into a gift for ALDI when it's going through this time of transition. And if you share such inspiration and gratitude, that I would just challenge you to think similarly about how you might be able to support ALDI at a time when it doesn't have this conference income. So those are my 3 invitations. Pick 1, pick 2, pick 3, whatever inspires you. And if you have to leave, blessings. If you stay, then we've got some more dialogue we can have around this question of some digital opportunities. And I think that question comes directly from some of the board's recent conversations, and they'd love to hear from us. So if you can stay, that'd be great.
Thank you, Brenda.
Ward. You're muted.
I'm saying goodbye.
Oh.
To see all these familiar faces. This is just a wonderful reunion. Thank you for the invitation.
Thank you for joining. Blessings.
And I'm leaving too. Thank you all. Good to see you.
Thanks.
Me too. I need to leave. Good to see everyone.
I have another appointment as well too, so thank you.
Thanks, Mark.
I'll answer that question, do 2 quick little answers to it, and then everybody else can chime in what they need to. We just had a meeting the other day with local development people in private schools, so an affinity meeting. And I probably got more out of that in 45 minutes than I get out of oftentimes sitting through a webinar. So I would say the affinity groups that you're looking to begin are huge. I remember my early years going to ALDI, I could always count on an affinity group of high school development people. And that hasn't happened in recent years because those numbers are down. So to maybe encourage membership or involvement with affinity groups would be great. And then secondly, there are just some people that are better at presenting digitally than other people are. And Lori, I gave you a couple names the other day of a couple webinars I'd sat in on that I thought were phenomenal and that I passed along to you because they were energetic and engaging, and they knew how to work their crowd in a way that got information back to them as well as a business. This was a business webinar, but I think recommendations from those of us that sit out there on webinars goes a long way, and you know what you want to see, and you know what you've seen before, and especially if we're at a time where we can do things digitally and involve other Christian presenters in a way that might tie in some other people. It's a great time to do it. And then I'm going to sign off in a minute as well. It was so nice to see you all.
Thank you, Jane.
Thanks.
Yeah, personally, I've struggled with the virtual educational opportunities, and I don't know if it's because as I'm getting older, my focus is harder for me to focus, and that, and plus I do them. I do virtual legacy seminars, and I have learned over the last year, but they are challenging to me as far as really engaging the folks on the other side of the screen. So I have, I would be hard pressed to really say, oh, wow, I've seen one that this just was a phenomenal experience for me anyway.
The problem is that there's just a plethora of conferences that are virtual now, and it seems there's webinars that you could attend every day, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Invitations all the time. And everybody's competing, AFP,
small gift annuities, yeah.
Everybody's competing for a little bit of your time, and we're all zoomed out. So, and of course, some of us probably are tired of going to conferences. But I think there's going to be a pent-up demand for people to want to go to a conference, and that they want to be face-to-face. They want to bump elbows. So I think there will be an opportunity on the conference side, but I think the affinity groups and the mentoring are two of the things that people really are looking for. The mentoring is a critical thing if you can get the volunteers. And I think Aldi's done a really good job on that, on the mentoring side. But that's probably something that people are really looking forward to.
I have a question as we've talked about all three of these questions, and really thinking about the idea of going to new markets. Have we done anything to reach out to groups in those markets to explore their interest and openness to, and yet another organization to be a part of? One of the amazing things about Aldi was, that there was such a, there were bonds and experiences. We had similar experiences that we shared then coming together. And, it was that, not for me, often not the educational time, it was the bumping elbows time. And, that really what made it distinctive from so many of the other offerings. And are people, they might be searching for that, to be honest, after the pandemic. I don't know, but I'd be curious if there'd be a way to just kind of feasibility that before we assume that there's that market there.
There was also this feeling, I just used the past tense, that at Aldi, you would be seated at a table or attend a presentation where there are newcomers and tried and true people who know all the ropes of the business, and that folks who had been in the business for 30 years still came to Aldi because they wanted to mentor and nurture and coach and scout and do and learn new stuff. And I hope that we would never lose that, because that makes it it makes it the comfortableness of bumping elbows and saying, hey, I gotta tell you how this all worked out, that we started this conversation a year ago, those sorts of things. But then that brings me back to community too, and that's the commonness among us, and that we share that. So that wasn't meant to go anywhere, just to get said.
We work with some fundraisers in the Presbyterian Church, and I have to admit, I've not really specifically invited them to be part of Aldi, and I think it's partly the name thing. I'm not
But you know, I don't know about the other the other synods, but in the ELCA, the stewardship folks often are doing stuff with the Presbyterians and the Episcopalians. Those are two groups that I think we're often connecting with in the ELCA. Because we're all struggling with the same things.
Well, and to the points that have been made here, I think I always look at myself as someone who represents opportunity for us to move into different sectors. I'm a Presbyterian, born and raised LCMS, but have been worshiping in the Presbyterian Church for about the last 5 or 6 years. And I work at a secular organization, but I'm a Christian. And so when I got introduced to Aldi 25 years ago, I found my people. You know, it was everyone was drawn by their vocation, by their commitment to faith, commitment to their organization. And there were so many things I had to pay my own way for a long time because our CFO was certain that I was just going to church and that he didn't understand what was being shared, and that it was really high quality education. And I think again, I don't know how to tap into that. And I think you raised very good points about research and tapping into some of those networks. But I just feel like there are people like me who didn't like AFP, and I wasn't, I'm still a member because I'm the head of the department. I feel like I need to do that, but it's not satisfying to me. And Aldi just really is so much more meaningful. And I built deep relationships, but also learned so much about fundraising. So.
I think I resonate with that a lot. I think back over my experience with Aldi and how many times have I and you heard, you've got to go to Aldi. You've got to go to, it's when you were hiring somebody into the business. We've got, for example, a young person who we think very highly of, who we think is with some training can do a great job. And we said, you've got to go to Aldi. You've got to go. And to me, that's been the number one thing that Aldi has to offer is the incredible learning that can be done there about the profession and how to do this, how to do that, how to relate to people and so forth. And the very point you were talking about that Ann was talking about, that you've got people there that have been there 20, 30 years, they've been there, they've done that, and they care about you and they want to help you. To me, that's very unique. That's the unique selling point that Aldi has, is the incredible training that there is to offer there. I don't know, how that differentiates us from AFB, because I've never been to an AFP conference, but it seems to me that the camaraderie and I think it's, lack of a better word, the care for one another is what stands out to me.
Mm-hmm.
I was after the town hall a couple of weeks ago, there was a Yaldi gathering for a subsequent hour, and I was very, very impressed with all the 20 somethings and early 30 somethings that were on that call, and their energy and their love for the organization. It was, they did a fundraiser during their time for scholarships for college students. So now we have the I think the future's bright. We just have to ask these questions.
In terms of the name change, if the Aldi board sent out something tomorrow and said we're changing our name, would there be a negative reaction? I mean, we've made comments today about nostalgia, but the handwriting's on the wall as far as Lutheran, and so would there really be any objection to saying, hey, we're going to change the name?
I don't think so.
Well, I'm sure you can't please everybody all the time, right? I'm sure there's
well, other than that.
we could ask thriving people that question.
We went through a process in our congregation about 6 months ago, kind of under the theme of pandemic as a portal, pandemic as a portal. And what does this mean? Where are we going? And so forth. Probably 99% of the discussion, maybe 98, was serving the members. And I tried to interject, how do we do outreach? When you draw a circle radius around our congregation, half the people in that radius are in church. So where are we going to be, after the pandemic, so to speak, in terms of outreach? And my comments kind of went over like a lead balloon, or were ignored. I doubt if I'm going to be asked to serve on any committee with that topic, but, and to me, again, Aldi is, we're facing a lot of the same issues, obviously.
Jim, do you have any thoughts on this? I guess you said.
You asking?
Any others? Christine, do you want to close us out, or Brenda, who's closing us out?
I think that that's my job. If we're ready to say goodbye, I'll do it. Again, I'll just reiterate those 3 invitations. Plan to stay engaged and feedback some of your other ideas to us, to Lori, to Christine, to Dave. Plan to invite people to join Aldi, and think about your charitable intent for an organization that you cherish very much. And then I would also just say blessings, stay well, and come to Milwaukee next year. It's not that far away. Start planning for a great reunion. I hope a hugging will be allowed. All right. Blessings, friends. We'll see you again soon, I hope.
Thank you.
Everyone.
Thank you.
Well,
Have a good day.